Hey there, some of you asked for an Alice in Wonderland review, especially since I said that Tim Burton is one of my favorite directors. The thing with him is that you either love his movies or absolutely loathe them, and I'm obviously in the first category. What I didn't say before is that Johnny Depp is my all-time favorite actor, and I especially love him when he plays in Tim Burton movies. But does this mean that I automatically loved this film? First, I want to talk a little about the story Alice's Adventures in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. I think the story was written about 150 years ago or so, and the first time I read it I was 9, and at that time I found the story to be very odd. Actually, I found it to be quite scary. Wonderland was a very creepy place, and the characters were also creepy. Definitely not the kind of Wonderland a kid would like to go to. It was many years later that I read the story again. I was about 18 at the time, I think, and as I was reading it to my little brother, I realized that this is not a children's story. I mean, it is very popular with kids and it has talking animals in it and all this kind of stuff, and the main character is a child. But this is not a kid's fairy tale. As a child, I was disturbed at how the characters were tormenting Alice throughout her journey. But as an adult, I understood that the story is meant to play mind games on you, that it toys around with logic and nonsense, and that Wonderland is upside-down reality. I liked that in Tim Burton's version of the story, Alice is not a child, but a young woman. She doesn't remember going to Wonderland as a kid. She dreams about this place, but believes it is all in her imagination. When she falls through the rabbit hole again and ends up in Wonderland, she doesn't get why everybody is saying welcome back to her. Also, some of the characters are wondering if she's the right Alice. She doesn't understand what they mean because she still believes that this is her dream, so if she's the one dreaming it, how can she possibly be the wrong Alice? And this pretty much portrays what every teenager feels. When you step from childhood into adulthood and you're not really sure about your identity, who are you supposed to be and what are you expected to be? The script overall is not that great, but in terms of dialogues and conversations, it is pretty clever. One thing I didn't like about the script is that the storyline from beginning to end makes sense, and it shouldn't. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland is written in the literally nonsense motive, and I know some people have a problem with that, some people just don't like that in the original story nothing seems to make sense. But once you get accustomed to this type of writing, you realize that the apparent nonsense is not because of the lack of meaning, but is because everything in the story is overly meaningful. It is excess of meaning, if you like. Everything is a metaphor, everything is a symbol, everything is actually something else. And while the original story is based on this type of writing, the literally nonsense motives lacks almost completely from the film. And it shouldn't, especially considering who the movie director is. As for the characters, of course I loved the Mad Hatter played by Johnny Depp. I said before that I absolutely adore him in Tim Burton movies. It's because every character he plays, from Edward Scissorhands to Willy Wonka, Sweeney Todd and now the Mad Hatter, all of them are very odd, unusual, even absurd characters. Yet he plays them in a very serious and believable manner. He really becomes those characters, which is very hard to do with this type of roles, and you don't see it that often in an actor. Another character that I loved was the Red Queen with her giant-ass bubble head. My god, Helena Bonham Carter was absolutely brilliant at it. No one could have played this part better. As for the White Queen played by Anne Hathaway, this was just wrong. And Anne Hathaway is an Oscar-nominated actress, I mean, bitch can act. But in this part she simply sucked donkey balls. She wasn't believable, she looked uncomfortable and fake and awkward. It just goes to show how difficult it is to play a Tim Burton character and that not anybody can do it. As for the Alice part played by Mia Wasikowska, I liked it. It wasn't anything memorable. I mean, if you were to remember just one character from the movie, it wouldn't be Alice, and she's supposed to be the lead. It would be either the Red Queen or the Mad Hatter, they definitely steal the show. But still, she was a good enough Alice, nothing that original about her, nothing that sparkles, but just not bad either. I have to say that visually the movie exceeded my expectations, which was not easy since Burton is a master at creating extraordinary visual art, so my expectations were high. But this was nothing short of brilliant, very lively and colorful. The magic of Wonderland draws you in. However, another thing I didn't like about the movie was the overall atmosphere. It was too Disney. It should have been more sinister and dark. I mean, this story can be turned into a really creepy movie and Tim Burton was the perfect man to do it. But he didn't go for it. Instead, he played it safe and cute and, like I said, Disney, which was really disappointing. I also wasn't a fan of the plot. I mean, I enjoyed watching most of the movie, but as it got closer to the ending, I was less and less excited about it. The fight scenes between the Red and White Army and Alice fighting the Beast, I mean, why? Why turn it into this? It could have been a much better story without all that cliché crap at the ending. So, all in all, was this a good movie? Yes, but only in terms of visuals and a few characters and dialogues. But for Tim Burton, this was very much a mediocre film, not explored to its full potential. I just expected so much more from him. But I would definitely recommend it, especially to fantasy movie fans. It's not something you would want to miss. As for the Tim Burton dedicated fans, at the end of it you may feel like screaming,
"Off with his head!"